Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we need to talk about one of the most alarming developments coming out of Iran right now. Tehran, a city home to more than 10 million people, is facing what experts are calling a zero water shock. A point where the city's main water reserves have collapsed so severely that the government is preparing for what could become the largest civilian evacuation in Iran's history. This is not just another environmental warning, not another political headline, and not a distant future scenario. This is happening now, and millions of people are waking up every day unsure of how long the taps in their homes will keep running. In this video, we are going to break down the crisis, the causes, the government's response, and what the future looks like for Iran's capital as it stands on the edge of an unprecedented humanitarian emergency. Tehran's water crisis didn't begin overnight. For decades, Iran has struggled with mismanagement of water resources, rapid urban expansion, and severe climate change impacts. But the situation today is unlike anything the country has ever seen. Reservoirs feeding Tehran have dropped to record low levels. Wells that once provided backup supplies have dried out. The main pipelines that bring water from northern dams are now operating below the minimum safe capacity. For many residents, water pressure has already fallen so low that entire neighborhoods go hours, sometimes days without any supply at all. People have resorted to storing water in buckets, tanks, and whatever containers they can find because nobody knows if tomorrow they'll have anything left coming out of the tap. The term zero water shock is being used by Iranian experts to describe the moment when a city's water system drops to a critical point where it cannot sustainably deliver enough water to its residents. Tehran is now dangerously close to that threshold. Meteorologists point to years of declining rainfall and shrinking snowpacks in the Alborz Mountains, which traditionally fed the city's reservoirs. But climate is only half of the story. Mismanagement has played an equally devastating role. Industrial expansion around Tehran has consumed enormous amounts of groundwater. Illegal well drilling drained aquifers faster than nature could replenish them. And decades of weak environmental policies allowed farms and scarce regions to use outdated irrigation methods that wasted millions of liters every day. Now the consequences have converged. Tehran is facing a water collapse on multiple fronts at the same time. The city's three major dams, Lar, Latian, and Tailgan, are at historically low levels. The pipelines connected to them are struggling to maintain pressure. Emergency wells dug over the past decade have either run dry or become too salty for human consumption. What makes this even more concerning is how quickly the decline has accelerated. Officials who last year said that the city was safe for at least another decade are now warning of imminent system shutdowns. This dramatic shift has left millions in shock, demanding answers and preparing for a crisis they never imagined. The Iranian government is now taking emergency measures that were once considered unthinkable. Water rationing has already begun in many districts, with strict schedules controlling when residents can and cannot access water. Tankers have been deployed to the hardest hit neighborhoods, but the demand far exceeds the supply. Long lines have formed at distribution stations where people wait for hours just to fill a few containers. In some areas, frustration is turning into fear as families worry about how they will survive if the main water network collapses completely. Reports coming from within Tehran say that the government has activated its national disaster response units. Hospitals have been instructed to operate under emergency water protocols. Schools have been given contingency plans to close on short notice. Many government offices have moved non-essential operations online to reduce water usage, But none of these measures address the scale of the looming crisis. If Tehran's water system fails, millions of residents will have no choice but to leave the city, at least temporarily. This is the scenario now being openly discussed by officials, a mass evacuation unlike anything Iran has ever witnessed. Evacuating a city the size of Tehran is a logistical nightmare. Moving even 1 million people is difficult. Moving 10 million is nearly impossible. There are not enough shelters, not enough transport vehicles, and not enough supplies to support such an operation. The surrounding provinces are already facing their own water shortages and cannot absorb a sudden wave of displaced people. And because this crisis is environmental, not temporary, nobody can say when, or even if residents would be able to return to the city once they leave. This uncertainty is driving anxiety across Tehran, where conversations about relocation have become part of daily life. Adding to the tension is the lack of transparency. Many residents feel that they have been kept in the dark for too long. They argue that if the government had acknowledged the severity of the crisis earlier, more preventive measures could have been taken. Now, as evacuation planning begins, people worry that decisions are being made behind closed doors without public input. This distrust is only increasing the sense of urgency. Families are stocking up on food and essentials. People are discussing backup plans with relatives in other cities, and social media is flooded with videos showing empty reservoirs, cracked landscapes, and long lines at water tankers. What makes this crisis even more alarming is that it is part of a larger pattern affecting the entire country. Iran's water shortages are widespread, but Tehran, because of its population, size, and political importance, represents the most critical point of failure. If the capital cannot secure water, the state will face a national emergency with global consequences. Analysts warn that a full-scale evacuation could destabilize the country's economy, disrupt government functions, and put immense pressure on neighboring regions. It could also worsen tensions inside Iran, as people demand immediate solutions to problems that took decades to create. Experts have proposed several strategies to stabilize the situation, but none of them provide quick relief. Building new desalination plants would take years and require enormous energy resources. Transporting water from the Caspian Sea or Persian Gulf would involve massive infrastructure projects. Importing water from neighboring countries is politically and logistically complicated, and restoring aquifers naturally could take decades. This means Tehran must focus on short-term survival while planning long-term recovery. For residents, the immediate challenge is simply to access enough water to sustain daily life. Some residents are already making changes. Households are minimizing water usage by reusing gray water, limiting showers, and cutting back on any non-essential water consumption. Community groups are organizing to distribute supplies to vulnerable families. Engineers and volunteers are working to repair broken pipes and seal leaks. But these efforts, while helpful, are not enough to reverse the broader collapse. The scale of the crisis is too large and the system is too strained. As the situation worsens, international observers are paying close attention. Iran's water crisis has been discussed in global climate forums for years, but the possibility of a capital city evacuation has shocked many experts. Some nations have offered technical assistance, while others have called on Iran to adopt more transparent data sharing practices. Environmental organizations have warned that Tehran's collapse could become a case study of how climate stress, combined with poor resource management, can push a megacity to the brink of disaster. Inside Tehran, the emotional toll is growing. Parents worry about their children's health. Elderly people struggle with the physical demands of hauling water containers up staircases. Business owners fear bankruptcy as water-dependent industries face shutdowns. Students wonder whether their schools will remain open. Every part of daily life has been touched by uncertainty, and as each day passes, the fear of reaching zero water becomes more real. Yet, even in the midst of this fear, there are voices calling for calm and cooperation. Many experts say that while the crisis is severe, a total evacuation can still be prevented if strict conservation measures are enforced and emergency infrastructure repairs are prioritized. But these strategies require unity, transparency, and rapid action, three things that Tehran has struggled with in the past. Whether these challenges can be overcome will determine the fate of millions. If there is one lesson from this situation, it is that water security is not just an environmental issue. It is a human issue, a political issue, an economic issue, and a national security issue. Tehran's crisis shows just how fragile modern cities can be when their most essential resource runs dry, and it raises difficult questions about how societies will adapt to a world where water is becoming increasingly scarce. As we continue to follow this story, one thing is clear: Tehran is entering one of the most critical periods in its history. The decisions made in the coming days and weeks will shape the future of the city, the country, and the millions of lives caught in the middle of this unprecedented water collapse. Whether the government can stabilize the system or whether evacuation becomes the only option, this is a moment that will be remembered for generations. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay prepared, and stay safe. If you found this explanation helpful, make sure to subscribe for more updates on global crises and major world events.